Welcome to the 4D Chess Podcast. Today on the show, we talk about democracy A versus democracy B. I'm going to prove to you that there's a myth to the democracy that we live in. We are also going to discuss the Epstein case, not in details of the Epstein case, but in exact reasons why you are never going to fully get it revealed. And that has everything to do with democracy A versus democracy B. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble, and this is 4D Chess. Let's play politics today. That's right. Welcome back to the show. We are live on X, live on YouTube, live on Rumble. Give us a follow on X. Just type in 4D Chess and you'll be fine. Those of you listening on Apple and Spotify, we've been doing this a minute. We're recently into video. Those of you watching, that's why I have like nothing behind me. We are figuring out the live streaming as we go along, but we really do help. We really do appreciate your support and listening. Give us a comment on all of the things, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or even Rumble or YouTube. It's a little bit of an eye-opening episode today. We are going to say some things where I honestly think that a lot of people would just follow it with, how do you know that? How do you know that? And it's all in front of you. It's all in front. Everything is in front. Change our little intro song there. Back to some money trees. Everything seems to be revolving around money. So we're going to go with money trees as the intro song. I had it before. We're back to it. Everything's sort of coming together. We got the live streaming working. Cameras are set up. We can change. We're going to do some Andrew Tate video today about the Epstein, but we can change things. We're getting it all sort of, what do you call it? The workflow is happening nice. But happy Wednesday to everybody. We're just going to sort of dive right into it. I want to start with this clip. This clip is from Vladimir Putin, and it is back in June 7th on Russian TV, and it's about a minute and a half, and I'm going to set you up. If you stay with me on this, you will leave understanding why the Epstein list is not revealed. You can get upset about it. Trump should have done this, and it's dividing our parties, right? We analyze politics on this show. That's why we call it 4D Chess. We look at it from different angles, and this one is really clear. This one is really clear. I'm very, very confident in this one. The Elon Musk thing, if we have time, we'll get to it at the end. I got a clip from this chief of staff, Trump's chief of staff, and it makes me sort of lean a different way on my take on the Elon Musk-Trump split. But we're going to focus on democracy A and democracy B, and it'll make more sense if you just follow along. We're going to start with this clip by Putin, though.
Понимаете, я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим. Президенты приходят и уходят, а политика...
I mean, I guess I should probably translate, since we all don't speak Russian. It says, I've spoken to 3 U.S. presidents.
Я уже общался и с одним президентом США, и с другим, и с третьим.
He says they come and go, but politics stays the same at all times. Because the powerful bureaucracy, when a person is elected, may have some ideas. Hold that thought. May have some ideas. We're going to reference those as load-bearing walls later. Okay? He says, then the people with briefcases arrive, well-dressed, wearing dark suits, just like mine, except for the red tie, since they wear black and dark colors.
И в темных, как у меня, костюмах, но только не с красным галстуком, а с черным или с темно-синим. И начинают...
He says these people start explaining how things are done.
Объяснять, как нужно делать. И
and instantly, everything changes.
Это происходит от
This is what happens with every administration in the United States. Changing things is not easy. And I say this without any irony. I actually believe him tremendously on this. Why would he make this up? He gives an example.
Что-то изменить – это достаточно сложное дело. Это, я говорю без всякой иронии.
It's not that someone does not want to change, but it is a hard thing to do. Take Obama, a forward-thinking man, a
продвинутый
liberal,
человек,
a
очень
Democrat.
человек либеральных взглядов. Правда?
Did he pledge to shut down Guantanamo Bay before his election? He sure did.
Демократ. Он же перед выборами своими обещал закрыть Гуантанамо. Сделал?
But did he?
Нет.
No, he did not.
А
And
почему?
may
Он что,
I
не
ask
хотел?
why not?
Очень хотел. Я
Did he
уверен,
not
что
want
хотел.
to? No, he wanted to. I'm sure he did. But it did not work out. We're going to leave it about right there. Basically, what he's saying is that before Obama was elected, he said some things. Okay? Trump and Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino, they all said some things. This is very simple to understand. They all said things. Then they get into government and they do different things. Okay. We can either assume that when they get in there, they change as people, which I find this very hard to believe because that means everybody that gets in, here's the premise. If you work for government, you get in and everything change. You change, right? Not you would have people that wouldn't change. You would have some people that would get in there and not change. You would have some people that get in there and stand up and fight for this and this and this and this, right? But no, under the current premise that the Epstein list is not being revealed, you either say they get in there and they're told what to do, or they get in there and they completely change and want to fuck over the American people. Which one seems more logical? Somebody like Dan Bongino that gets in there saying these things right here. And we'll just play a little clip. We got a little Dan Bongino clip. This is before and after.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this.
2023, he's saying this.
Catherine Rumler, I want you, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore.
Because he's the linchpin. This is why you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. He's the linchpin. Imagine, like I saw a clip on YouTube the other day about all these dominoes. It was like 300,000 dominoes. It was like new world record or something. And imagine you stacked them into like this structure, this floating structure where it's like all around, dominoes everywhere in the room, in the sky, towers of it. And there's this one right in the middle. The one right in the middle. And if you remove the one, I guess it's like that old game Kerplunk. Y'all remember the game Kerplunk? Right? With them. Do you guys remember Kerplunk? Am I dating myself? Kerplunk game. You don't remember this? The game Kerplunk, where you like put the marbles above the structure and they're all stuck by sticks. Right? We're on video now. I can do visuals. Right? You got sticks and things. And then when you pull out the stick, everything falls. The stick is fucking Jeffrey Epstein. You are not going to remove that stick. That stick is like the it's like the beach at Normandy for, we'll call it, Andrew Tate calls it the Matrix. I'm calling it Democracy A versus Democracy B. Eric Weinstein calls it the shadow government and Democracy A, Democracy B, right? Shadowy forces, nefarious forces. Some people call it the deep state. Please understand that it is a giant Kerplunk game. A giant Kerplunk game. And Jeffrey Epstein is like the last thing holding up the myth. The myth of you actually, have a government that works for you. Right? And so you have, where were we? We're back on Putin. We did that one. And so you have Dan Bongino. Listen to what he said it's in 2023, right? 2023, he's saying, you've got to stay on this. You've got to stay on this.
And nobody seems to want to talk about it outside of a few entrepreneurial media
Right, here comes 2025.
outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
No, okay. That, you can take it at face value, but we know he didn't kill himself. There's footage, there's controversy around the body even getting removed. They've released a video clip. There's a minute missing. We can talk conspiracies all day long, but eventually, if there's 25 conspiracies and you either believe, like, I'm just going to take the odds on that one, right? There's 25 different ways that it could have happened, right? There's 25 different ways that it could have happened, or there's he killed himself. That's it. It's done. Okay. The messaging from he killed himself, it's done, aligns with Trump's response the other day. And Trump's response the other day was this. Trump response, Epstein. Right here.
Intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the stabbing?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey,
I
Pam,
could,
could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration. But
That's the messaging. The messaging is to get rid of it, to put it to bed. The messaging is you've got to put it to bed. Trump has given top-down orders. Okay, Pam Bondi has given top-down orders, right? Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. I got Kash Patel. You want to see that one too? We got that one. Where did that one go? Kash Patel. Right here. Look at the messaging.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Kash Patel?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if release the names, right?
But you can't release the names, because if you put those names, we'll get to this, but if you put those names out, those names are going to talk. Those names can talk. And everybody has everything to lose. Everybody has everything to lose. Bill Gates has everything to lose, but the Democracy B, which we'll get to in a minute, which is basically just the institutional CIA intelligence, the shadowy governments, they have everything to lose, right? If you pull out the Epstein stick, the Epstein kerplunk, all the marbles go down. And that means you're going to get a Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI moment where you could just storm the castle and guillotine the leaders. You can't have that if you're a leader. I'm not saying this is right. Please understand that there are children, women, girls, whatever you want to call them, all raped, trafficked, the worst of the worst. I mean, this is the deepest, darkest, most awful corner of society doing things that you can't even fathom. You just can't. Us normal people don't do these things, right? We think that our government isn't doing these things. That's the other part, is that you have this thought that our government's always doing things to help us out. No, they were trafficking children, most likely with your tax dollars, paying pilots, caterers, and other things to bring in people. They paid tech specialists to set up secret cameras. They do these things. Your government does these things. And if you found out that your government did these things, you would storm the castle, put a guillotine out front, and chop off Marie Antoinette's head and Louis XVI's, and then put a new government in. And that's exactly what they don't want. And that's why you're never going to find out. That's one of the reasons you're never going to find out. And the other reasons is exactly what Patel is saying. There's lobby groups that have financial interests because anybody that's tied to it is going down when you pull out the linchpin. They're all going down. The donors, the agents, the pilots, the senators who were told. Imagine getting a intelligence briefing. They hand you the paper. You open the paper. It says mission objective to get the Saudi prince or some world leader compromised because we need his oil or something, right? We need something. We need a mission objective, means and methods. We are planning to lure. He likes to, have sex, which is a huge drive in most everybody. So let's get him compromised. We're going to film him, but he really likes underage girls. So we're going to traffic underage girls to this place where we can get him compromised. Your government did that. Your government did that. Now imagine being a senator in 2015. Right? Obama's still president, and Obama had to approve it, most likely, but not most likely. The CIA probably just did it. Then you give it to the intel guys, and they're like, do we speak up? Do we speak up, or do we? Because little girls are going to, this is bad. But I can't speak classified information. You start to see the problem. Now, should they? Yes, of course they should. But what does that mean for them? That means they would lose their retirement. They would get sued. They would get kicked out, never voted for again. And yeah, is that selfish? 100%. I'm not saying it's right. But this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. This is what's happening. It's why you can't pull this out. Because you could sue everybody for negligence, even authorizing, depending on the paper trail. Listen to the rest of Kash Patel.
I've said it. Dan Bongino said it. We've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release.
As much as you can release. Why can't you release it all? You can't release it all. Now, you're either going to argue that Kash Patel is protecting Donald Trump, which he's not, because Donald Trump is not on the list. Otherwise, it would have come out to prevent him from becoming president. So why are they protecting it? It's not to protect pedophiles. Your logic there would say that Patel and Bongino want to protect pedophiles, and they don't. I don't even think Pam Bondi wants to protect pedophiles. Nobody wants to protect pedophiles. You don't want to be that person. Not only do you not want to be that person, if you do want to be that person, politically, it's a terrible move, and these people are power hungry across the board. So strategically, it's a stupid move. Morally and ethically, it's an awful move. This is not what these people are doing. They're not protecting pedophiles. They're protecting something else. What are they protecting? That's the only thing you got to ask. It's not a person. It's not a list. What are they protecting? Are you assuming that they're taking money? Like Bill Gates is just giving them millions of dollars to not release the list? So that's your logic? You're going to assume that these people want this out in 2023. This is a huge case. Patel said it. Bongino said it. All the things. Right? You assume that they want it out, and then they get into office and they protect. What are they protecting? I personally think that, what is Trump protecting? Trump said he was going to release it. He gets into office. What is he going to release? Why is he not releasing it? Putin said it. What does Putin care? He doesn't care. He's telling the truth on his own Russian media. He doesn't care. You get into office, the dark suits show up. Obama wanted to close Guantanamo Bay. He gets in office. He doesn't close Guantanamo Bay. Trump wanted to release the Epstein files. He gets in office. He doesn't release the Epstein files. There's too many patterns. There's too many patterns for you to say, oh, everybody's just corrupt. You get it. You're not corrupt. You get into office. You are corrupt. You can't. No, that's a terrible logic, because maybe one, maybe two, but everybody? No, not everybody. You can't have everybody. With 100% certainty, you're not saying everybody gets into government just immediately wants to protect pedophiles, and that's why, and they become corrupt and they don't. So what are they protecting? What are they protecting? Here's a clip. Senator Daniel Inouye, back in God knows when was this? The 70s?
Shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
It's sort of a shadow government within the government, not just in the United States, but all around the world. And the kind of power
Notice he said all around the world. We're about to get to it. Democracy A versus democracy B.
they have, both financially, technologically, and the means of projecting power militarily is much greater than anything that the conventional military or the conventional government or the President of the United States has.
Okay. Are you starting to see it yet? What are we protecting? It's not that they want to protect it either. They don't want to protect it. They're forced to protect it. You see what I mean? The way Epstein took advantage of you was through basically things like MKUltra and Operation Midnight Climax from like, you could see these things in 1953 all the way up to 63. Agents lured men to safe houses. They dosed them with drugs and recorded them with prostitutes to test coercion tactics. That was in the 50s and the 60s. And here we are. Epstein comes into prominence in the late 70s and 80s. So you have a shadowy government basically from the day. You want to know the other linchpin of this is the JFK assassination. That is why you haven't had that released yet either. Because and we can call it the CIA. I think that's probably the easiest way to do this is to say that the CIA took over the government in the early 60s via, assassinations, what do you want to call it? Midnight Climax, MKUltra, different drugs, coercion, blackmail, all the things. That's the base of it. That's when it first started, post World War II. Right? They honed their techniques and they took power in 1963 by installing Lyndon B. Johnson. You can call it Israel, you could call it, whoever. It doesn't really have a name. It's more of a thing. Right? And this is Kash Patel's on clip. I couldn't find it, but it's on clip telling Glenn Beck. It's not so much a who, but it's a what. Well, what are we talking about? This is probably the best clip you're ever going to see on this show. Right? This is probably the best clip you're ever going to see on the show. It's a little bit long, but I'm going to play it and we're going to listen to it. This is Eric Weinstein, mathematician, physicist, political commentator. I really look up to this guy. Everything he says, extremely logical, based in fact. And I want to play it, but I'll pause and I'll talk. But stay with me. This might be the best clip you see on the news today.
Which I now feel comfortable saying.
Oh, by the way, it was a year ago. So this was back in September 2024. That was about 8 months ago. And he's talking about different governments within the government, but he's really talking about how we determine who becomes president.
Which is, I don't know whether Donald Trump will be allowed to become president.
What do you mean by that?
I think that there's a remarkable story, and we're in a funny game, which is, are we allowed to say what that story is? Because to say it, to analyze it, to name it, is to bring it into view.
That's exactly what we're talking about. This is what you either get called a conspiracy theorist, you can't bring this up, and the conspiracy theory term was invented for this exact situation. When you started calling out who killed JFK, you were labeled a conspiracy theorist. And if you start talking about shadowy governments, you immediately get called a conspiracy theorist. Right? It has lost its value. In fact, conspiracy theorists are batting a damn high average over the last couple of years. Insanely high average. Like batting 1,000%. Right? But can you name it? We feel it. We feel that there's these forces. I call them nefarious forces because I don't know what else to call it. We feel that the CIA is doing these awful things. We feel that the world is trying to do these awful things, like sex traffic underage girls through tunnels, right? Cartels are all over the place. We feel it all around us, right? You feel it all around you, but can you speak of it?
I think we don't understand why the censorship is behaving the way it is. We don't understand why it's in the shadows. We don't understand why our news is acting in a bizarre fashion. So let's just set the stage, given that that was...
This really is a good clip. I've probably watched this clip 6 times in the last year. It's a great episode. I watched the whole thing twice.
In February.
Modern Wisdom is what it's called. I forget the guy's name, but it's a great show, whoever that guy is.
There is something that I think Mike Benz has just referred to as the rules-based international order. It's an interlocking series of agreements, tacit understandings, explicit understandings, clandestine.
Mike Benz calls it the rules-based international order, and it's a series of agreements throughout the world.
Understandings about how the most important structures keep the world free of war and keep markets open.
Instead of war there, I would like to replace the word war, and I think he means this, with what's the word? Instead of war, even though war is what they're trying to do, the British imperialist system versus the American system, like they want debt, they want war, but instead of war, he just means like when you change is probably better there, right? If you get a new boss at your job, everybody's scared, but you're not scared of getting fired, even though it is possible that you will get a new boss that comes in and uses bureaucratic ways to get you fired. For example, a new principal that comes into a new school may change the way the teachers do things. And are the teachers happy about that? No, teachers are pissed about that. The previous principal let me do this. I got into this routine. Nobody likes change. Not a single person likes change. Now magnify that. Magnify that to million and billion dollar interest in trade deals around the world. Here comes a new president, right? Here comes a new president. Is there going to be change? Is there not going to be change? You have the money to pay for lobby groups. You have the money and political power to fight the change. Do you fight the change? I think you do fight the change. This is democracy B, right? Democracy A is where we the people want the things. And we get the things because our government serves us. Bullshit. It doesn't serve us. It serves them, right? It serves their interest. Democracy B is the power structures that don't want the change. They want to continue to trade. So they don't want fucking tariffs from Trump, right? I'm sort of shocked that Democracy B, because I do believe it exists, I'm sort of shocked that Democracy B allowed Trump to be president. You say, well, allowed? What do you mean allowed?
And there has been a system in place, whether understood explicitly or behind the scenes or implicitly, that says that the purpose of the two American parties is to prune the field of populist candidates so that whatever two candidates exist in a face-off are both acceptable to that world order.
Did you hear that? And I think he's right. That this uniparty, these nefarious forces, the people that don't want change, prune the populist candidates to get one that will change the least.
So what you're trying to do from the point of view, let's take it from the point of view of, let's say, the State Department, the intelligence community, the Defense Department.
That's Democracy B, the institutions.
And major corporations that have to do with international issues, from arms trade to, food. They have a series of agreements that are fragile and could be overturned if a president entered the Oval Office who didn't agree with them, and the mood of the country
100%.
Was, why do we pay taxes into these structures? Why are we hamstrung? Why aren't we a free people? So what the two parties would do...
That's Democracy A. That's us screaming from the high heavens, why aren't these people in jail? Why is Jeffrey Epstein, why is there only one person arrested? How are they not sex trafficking? How is there a minute of video missing? Why? Because Democracy B doesn't want the kerplunk to come down, and then the entire nation says, whoa, we were paying taxes to sex traffic girls? We were paying taxes? Like, we were paying taxes into structures that sex traffic girls for political gain? Not even that, underage girls? And we're paying taxes into the Department of Justice that won't even prosecute the people that did the crimes? What the hell? Right? Democracy A is going to get so riled up that they're going to vote for people like Trump who ran, and they're going to change it. This is where we are. This is exactly where we are.
That they would run primaries. You'd have populist candidates, and you'd pre-commit the populist candidates to support the candidates who won the primaries. As long as that took place and you had two candidates that were both acceptable to the international order, that is
international order or democracy B or nefarious forces, as long as you had two candidates that they both approved of that wouldn't do the change, they don't like change, they want to continue to make their money, then that's okay.
They aren't going to rethink NAFTA or NATO or what have you. We called that democracy. And so democracy was the illusion of choice, what's called
the illusion of choice. That should be the theme of this show.
Magician's choice, where the choice is not actually, pick a card, any card, but somehow the magician makes sure that the card that you pick is the one that he knows. In that situation, you have magician's choice in the primaries, and then you'd have the duopoly field two candidates, either of which was acceptable, and you could actually afford to hold an election.
Did you hear that? You can actually, democracy B gets it to a point where you can actually afford to hold an election. Why? Because both candidates have agreed, by asking questions and feeling them out and doing your research, whether you blackmail them or not, sort of like Epstein was blackmailing people, right? You can't have change if you're democracy B. There's just too much money. There's just too much money involved. That's why they have to prune the candidates, give you magician's choice, thinking that you have a say. You don't have a say. You're a slave. You're a slave. Guess we should finish this other clip.
And the populists would vote, and that way the international order wasn't put at risk every 4 years, because you can't have alliances that are subject to the whim of the people in plebiscites. So
plebiscites, that's us, the small little voter that doesn't mean anything.
Under that structure, everything was going fine until 2016. And
all right, so this is true. You have to analyze it from a tactical standpoint on both sides of the board, right? This is 4D chess. We break down stuff tactically. Who's doing what and why? Donald Trump came into office in 2016. Tactically, democracy B fucked up. They didn't think he was going to win. So they held their election thinking that Hillary was going to be, and then they got beat. So what did they do? They tactically rigged the next election. You see what I'm saying? Because they can't make that mistake again. These are smart people. They're not stupid. This is the intelligence agencies, for God's sakes.
And then the first candidate ever to not hold any position in the military nor position in government in the history of the Republic to enter the Oval Office, Donald Trump, broke through the primary structure. So
broke the primary structure. That was a structure that was built to protect democracy B.
Then there was a full court press. Okay, we only have one candidate that's acceptable to the international order. Donald Trump will be under constant pressure that he's.
So what did they do? They put all of the media on them. CNN, MSNBC. They lawfare attacked him. They went after Donald Trump. That's exactly where we live right now. This is why they're still going after him. They're not going after them because they hate him. They don't give a fuck. They're going after him because he is a threat of change to the New World Order. Look around the world. He is, I'm going to say this from the perspective of democracy B. He's ruining our chances for war in the Middle East. He's ruining our chances to demolish the US dollar. He's ruining our chances, for international trade where we take advantage of America, right? He's ruining our chances for censorship, for global stuff, for the World Health Organization, for the WEF. From that perspective, Donald Trump is ruining all of that. He technically, from their perspective, ruined it from 2016 to 2020. So what do? We need to rig the election. We need to have a global pandemic. We need to make sure America gets Biden in there. That's why there was 81 million votes, because they were too scared to go any lower. They had to guarantee that they won the election. So they raised up the number of votes in their rigged election machine to 81 million. And nobody voted because it was the pandemic. Nobody went out. Nobody voted. He got more votes in less. He got no bellwether counties. Nothing. Biden got 81 million votes. And Michigan flipped in the middle of the night with the exact number. Like they couldn't risk another 4 years of consecutive terms for Trump.
Loser. He's a wild man. He's an idiot. And he's under the control of the Russians. And then he was going to be a 20-1 underdog. And then he wins. And there was no precedent for this. They learned their lesson. You cannot afford to have candidates who are not acceptable to the international order and continue to have these alliances. This is an unsolved problem. So I don't have a particular dog in this fight. I, one, believe in democracy. I also believe in international agreements. And
look how they freaked out. They freaked out. Obama, 70 million. Trump, 69 million, 74 million. Didn't even campaign, got 81 million. Why? Because they fucked up. They messed. He blew through the primary structure. They had to make sure that he didn't blow through their election structure as well. You can tie in so many conspiracies, right? They were so nervous about losing the ability to do this. They were so nervous about losing the ability to do this that they had a pipe bomber go to the this is my theory. It is all speculation, but it ties into everything that I'm saying. The pipe bomber on January 6th was there to distract from Donald Trump's speech, his concessions speech on January 6th. He distracted. Well, the pipe bomb was going to be a distraction for the speech that they couldn't control Donald Trump, and he was going to get up there and say that they rigged the election because he knew that they rigged the election. Donald Trump is not stupid. And it's not that hard to find these things, right? Once you're in office for 4 years, you see where the dead bodies are. You're talking to people. People are loyal. They start ratting on each other. There's all these leaks. The whole system. You're basically the kerplunk. Donald Trump got in there and pulled out 4 or 5 things, and a bunch of marbles fell down, and everybody saw them on the floor, and everybody's like, what the fuck is this? And so they were nervous that they were going to lose the ability to rig elections. This is my theory. And so they had a pipe bomb there. And if Donald Trump got up there on stage and started talking about the rigged election, which instead he just said, they stole it. That's all they said. It was very close. They were very nervous on that day. And if he would have gone into detail about this and gotten it on record and everybody would have started investigating it, that's the moment. That's the linchpin moment. Right? There's different fingerprints on all of these things. The auto pin, shadowy government, right? The auto pin is the shadow government, right? The Epstein case is the biggest linchpin of the shadow government. This voting stuff, also shadow government. We are very, very close to beating Democracy B. But that brings back to another question here in a second when we're done with this video.
It is the job of the State Department, the intelligence community, and the Defense Department to bring this problem in front of the American people and say, we have a problem. You don't know everything that's going on.
And that's what they always say. You don't understand. That's why they don't tell you things.
If you start voting in populist candidates, you're going to end up knocking out load-bearing walls that you don't understand.
But Trump was in office for 4 years. Did he turn the entire table upside down?
He risked doing that.
Say more.
You remember that there was this uncomfortable accommodation given to the Central Intelligence Agency at the beginning of his actual term. There was a question about, was he going to question I have a very different point of view than most of my friends who are also, at least nominally Democrats, which is it was a very immoral thing that was done to him. He was asked the question, will you pre-commit that you will accept the results of an election? Now, if you were going to rig an election,
sure,
you would ask somebody that to begin with, and that's part of the game. And he says, well,
it's such an easy question. I'm not on election stuff, but it's to show you that this nefarious force that I call Democracy B, which Epstein is a part of, by the way, that will do anything and everything. This is one of their dirtier secrets, anything and everything to further the interest of Democracy B power structures. This is why there is no justice, because they're the Department of Justice as well.
We'll see. So you have this very strange thing going on where democracy is the greatest threat to democracy.
Democracy A and Democracy B.
Now, how can that be? It's two different concepts of democracy. One concept of democracy is the will of the people. You hold plebiscites. And even if you do it with an electoral college or political parties, the idea is that the people are elected, by and of and for the people. The other,
you have to give breadcrumbs to us. You have to give breadcrumbs to us. Otherwise, we won't continue to wake up and grind and go to work and just do all these things without questioning it. A majority of people don't even follow politics. They just want their peaceful little lives and their peaceful little retirements and watch their kids grow and all of these things. I want those things too. However, there is Democracy B.
The other idea of democracy is that democracy is about institutions that sprang from democracy once upon a time, and that those institutions have to be kept strong. Those are two completely different concepts that are overloaded to the same word. Under that circumstance,
does it make sense now why for a whole year in an election year, all we heard was that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy? Does it make sense now? This makes sense. Epstein getting released technically is a threat to democracy under this premise. And it is. There are people that actually believe this is the case. And my argument is that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have a duty to protect America. They have a duty to get justice, but they have a duty to go after the perps and the whatnot. But they have a duty to uphold America. They can't just go in there and burn it to the ground. You can't just go in there and just burn the whole thing down. Like, you can't do that. Institutional trust is part of their duty. They have to be trustworthy. They can't just go in there and just burn down all of these institutions. What institutions are left? What are we paying taxes to? It is the biggest, like, this is a true constitutional crisis, is what's happening right in front of us.
So we have a paradox, which is, how do we keep the electorate from overturning the type A democracy from overturning the type B democracy?
Storming the castle, cutting off their heads like Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI in the French Revolution. And revolutions repeat each other all the time. Like, we can have another one. I'm not saying we're going to guillotine Trump and everybody, but I am pointing out that there's 350 million people, and there's only about 100,000, I'm guessing. I'll just give it 100,000 employees for the government. Even if you give them 1 million employees, you have 350 million versus 1 million. In terms of a tactical battle, they have no chance. I don't care if you have the guns in the military. 350 million people? This is how revolutions go, by the way, is when all institutional trust goes out the window. French Revolution. When I charge you for your bread 100 times more, or Mao, when I purposely starve and kill you, right? These are the things that happen in history. Epstein is the last kerplunk stick from a attack the structure moment, right? It's a revolutionary moment. It really is, because when you find out that our CIA, our intelligence agencies, the DOJ, all of the intel agencies combined, senators, pilots that flew people to the planes, presidents that knew it was going on and didn't speak up, including Trump in his first term. You can't speak out against this stuff because it collapses democracy B, which in turn would be democracy A overrunning democracy B, which you can't have because then people are dying.
Democracy. And that's the unsolved problem that they will not bring in front of the people. So what you have is a situation in which I believe that there are many people in Washington, D.C. who think that Donald Trump cannot become president because he can now go for broke. He's also not going to try to run for re-election. He's relatively unconstrained. He's wealthy. He's learned how to play a lot of these games.
Yes,
maybe got a little bit of an axe to grind.
And you went after him with lawfare, and he has an axe to grind. 100%.
Well, after the last 6 years.
No kidding.
Yep.
And he's a wild card. You know, there are three people who are doing amazing versions of the drunken boxing game.
We can leave it right there. But that is absolutely incredible. Here it is proof that he's going after the New World Order. BRICS. The group, what is it? Brazil, India, China. Man, Russia. Listen to this.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm a tariff issue. So you've talked about India coming, but then a couple days ago you issued a new tariff threat to members of the BRICS countries for if they align with anti-American
policies. This is him going after democracy.
India, Brazil,
That's
Russia,
right. They have to pay 10% if they're in BRICS, because BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Man, he is a thorn in their side. And this is why I don't understand why there are people here in America, plebiscites here in America, that are just anti-Trump. This guy on the screen right here, this guy, whether you agree or disagree with his local politics, the man is fighting for us across the world. He's sort of correct when it comes down to we should move on from Epstein. We know who's on it. We know who's on it. You have Gates, right? I had a whole list of it right here. Gates, Hoffman, Republicans and Democrats. We know who's on this thing. I just wrote it down. But we already know who's on it. Why do we need to know who else is on it? You probably have some rich nobodies on there. You got, who filmed all this stuff? You know? Somebody filmed it. Where's that guy? He was taking pictures of Epstein at the house. They filmed all these videos. Who are those people? Those are intel agent assets. Those are assets for the government. You can't have this exposed. Therefore, you're never going to get it. Because they are going to say, oh, you are nobodies. You don't need to know. You don't understand how things work. That's what they say.
Is that immediate, sir? Or is
Yeah,
that
pretty
if
soon.
they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this.
So BRICS is now in a crazy spot because in order for them to devalue the dollar, they can't be contributing back to America. So now Trump is it goes against their goal. Their goal is to ruin the United States. Therefore, they can't be paying things in dollars. But here's Trump saying, oh, you want to deal with us? The largest economy in the world? Yeah, you got to pay 10%. And it's not just 10%. It's 10% to Brazil, India, 10% to Russia, 10% to China, 10%. It's 10% on all these things. That adds up to an extra 60%. And Scott Besson said the other day, we've already made $300 billion from these tariffs, which is only strengthening the U.S. dollar, which goes against BRICS. So these people are there's this bigger war going on. Hence Trump's response of, are you really asking me about this pedo right now? I'm trying to save the country. I'm trying to save the country. And you're asking me about a pedo? He's totally spot on. You shouldn't care about it. You're never going to get the answer anyway. So just let the man cook. Let him save the country. It's just crazy. Here's more proof that this is going on. This is on the Sean Ryan Show, and this is journalist Nick Bryant.
I've been at this for 21 years, and Epstein had cameras in all of his homes. I mean, Epstein was definitely a blackmail artist. And the government wants to make sure that does not come out, that a huge part of our political system is predicated on blackmail. And especially if that dark, malignant corner of the intelligence that is using blackmail against our politicians and other people, if they were using children, I mean, that would make the American people erupt. So that's why that Wikipedia page is locked down. And that's why this is important. This is, for that dark corner of intelligence, this is Omaha Beach. Exactly. You know, they're not going to give an inch.
They're not going to give an inch. It's kerplunk all day. Picture this. This is why they won't give an inch. Picture this. You have a CIA director, multiple, over the last several decades, FBI directors. They've been handed briefings saying we need to traffic underage girls in order to blackmail world leaders. It's top secret. You can't breathe a word of it outside of the skiff. Kids are getting raped, destroyed, trafficked. You have to go into the trafficking networks for the cartels and pull the girls out because you know that certain world leaders like certain little girls or boys. You know this is happening, but you can't speak up because if you speak up, then you are revealing classified information. Do you see the problem? It's fucked up. If you speak out, you're breaking the law, risking prison time, risking your job, risking your retirement because you're going to have to pay for lawsuits. You violated 18 USC 793, the Espionage Act. Just ask Edward Snowden, exiled for leaking spying. Hence, they went after him so hard. That he released programs that were spying on the American people. He released programs that he was protecting Democracy A. And if you go out and protect little girls in Democracy A, then you're going to get in trouble too. So they don't. If they did, they would then face criminal charges of negligence or conspiracy charges under 18 USC 371, if complicity is proven. You would have civil suits for failing to act, and it drains their bank account of these politicians that have been in power for 30, 40 years. They're almost done. You don't get to the head of the Intel Committee your first year like Jasmine Crockett. Right? This drains their bank accounts. It ruins their legacy. People they've worked their whole lives to get to this point. Do you speak up to save the little girls? I think you do. Morally, you should, but they don't. They're eyeing lawfare's real. The military will just sue you. They tried this on Trump to try to just drain his bank account. They're just going to sue and sue and sue and sue, and all your retirement's gone. Your whole life's work is, you're broke. All the things. They'll throw you to the court system until you're broke. Look at the Chicago Police Department in the 70s with their blackmail ops. Frank Donner targeted activists with dirt to shut them up. The system is built to crush the dissent. The darkest tactic is when they plant child porn on your computer. Russian operatives have done this. Vladimir Borovsky in Britain, child porn charges in 2016. It was supposedly planted by the FSB. The New York Times reported that. Right? There are no U.S. cases explicitly tying intel agencies to this tactic, but on the Sean Ryan Show, I forget the guy's name. He was a former CIA agent, and he said, morally and ethically, if this person is doing these things and we don't have a case for them, is it okay for us to go in there and plant that stuff? He said it out loud. I don't have the clip. I should probably find that. Imagine a politician hauled you into a CIA back room or an interview room, right? At a police station. They turned off the cameras and they said, we found child porn on your computer. You're going to jail unless you do this for us. Once again, it's a career ender. It's a bank account drainer. It's a life ruiner, right? Sex offender for, you're on the apps and everybody can see where you are. The guys in politics, they don't want any of that stuff. They've spent their whole life trying to get where they are, trying to finish the thing, fighting, and they just want to save their legacy. blackmail law, the laws are shaped by blackmail. They're not laws, they're shackles, right? And every citizen's trust, their vote, and their tax dollar is getting hijacked to fuel all of this. These guys aren't paying for it with their own money. In fact, they're probably money laundering. They're probably money laundering. You know, and here's the sick truth about it all is that they're guarding the lie that we're free. That's the part that bothers me the most. They're this democracy A, democracy B stuff. They are guarding the lie that we are free. We're not free. Right? The myth of democracy is real. Good people like Dan Bongino, they want to serve. And when they get in there, they realize how it all works. And they can't. Their oath to their country traps them. Not only could they be getting blackmail, which I don't think they are, they just can't crush the system. The system isn't designed, it's ass backwards, I get it. They have loyalty to the country, which country is just the synonym for democracy B. That's the problem. You got this flag right here. They got you tricked into thinking that this is what you're fighting for. And Bongino is that. You can't ruin that. I'm not saying it's a trick. You should have this pride and these principles. But democracy B does not. They use it against you, just like they use laws against you, just like they blackmail you. This effectively is democracy B's blackmail. They get good people like Bongino in there. Hey, you're serving this. Don't ruin this. So they don't. And yeah, it's fucked up. They can't come out and just, route these names out and go protect the victims because it will crush the institutional structures of democracy of this. It's set up that way. So you're torn. It's why it'll never get exposed. Imagine, look at it through another lens. Imagine if the Federal Reserve admitted they were stealing your money. If they just came out into a press conference and say, hey, for the last 100 years, we've created inflation from 1910 at the Jekyll Island meeting. We created it, and we steal half your retirement over, a 20-year period. We aim for 2%, but we really try to sneak 4 and 6% by you, and we just steal your money. Imagine if they said that. What would you do? I would go up there with guns and whatnot because that's robbery. They've been stealing. What are you going to do? Do you see how this works? They can't admit that. People would storm the Capitol, just like they stormed the castle in the French Revolution. They cut off Marie Antoinette's head and Louis XVI's in public square, and everybody cheered. History repeats itself. If this happened, if the Federal Reserve and the White House, if Trump came out tomorrow and said, yep, our government for the last 30, 40 years has been trafficking underage girls, and, they've been rigging elections, and, we only did that to gain power politically, and there was a small group of people that led the way, and then, you guys paid for it. But if he said that, God, it's over, man. You can't say that. The fallout would be brutal. Lawsuits, it would implicate everything at the highest level, all the way up to the international banks, the Federal Reserve, who knew Epstein was money laundering, right? It would implicate the judges for hiding reports and the prosecutors for hiding. The whole kerplunk goes down. The whole thing goes down, and everybody just loses their mind. Here's more proof. This is Andrew Tate.
Driving force behind all politics. It always will be, because it is your primary objective to not only make people believe they can be rich, but to keep your rich people happy, to keep your oligarchy.
This is another angle I forgot to mention. You have to keep your rich people happy because rich people pay all the taxes.
Happy, and to keep them politically invested in you. So you talk about the Epstein list. I would argue it's a very similar scenario. It's all about money. It's all about who has the money and controlling the money.
100%.
Is America as a country prepared to upset all of its richest people? I don't know. Is it? Is it prepared to upset all of its richest people to appease bloodthirsty brokies who don't even care?
Brokies or plebiscites like us. That's democracy A. Everybody has the same analogy. We just all call it different stuff. So he calls it brokies. Weinstein called it plebiscites. I'm calling it democracy A.
Justice. They just want the drama. Another question, because I would argue that the murders that happen every day on the street are very interesting, but no one cares about that. MS-13 and all this shit, no one really cares about that. But this Epstein list they really care about. They want justice, sure, but it's a drama. It's interesting. They want to find out. They're curious. And I'm asking you, as a professional, you're in charge of a country. Your primary objective is to keep your oligarchy happy, to keep the wealth inside of your nation, and to make them obey you when it comes to sanctions and such other things.
Right.
And to ensure that the US dollar becomes and stays the predominant currency globally. There's a bunch of bloodthirsty brokies on the internet who barely pay taxes who want to go through a list. Who are you going to prioritize? Who do you care about?
He says it like who, but I'm saying it like what? They're prioritizing that democracy be institutional democracy over democracy of the people and what we want. What else do we got going on today? I have more clips. Here's another one. Judge Joe Brown talking about
this other thing. I represented mostly criminal defendants.
Judge Joe Brown was Kamala Harris's boyfriend back in the day. But Judge Joe Brown is sort of famous for being damn accurate on almost pretty much everything he ever said.
Practice law. And there would be a time or two where something like this would happen.
Talking about Epstein cases coming in. Listen how it works.
Excuse me. I know you have implicated my client in this, but we have something to offer for you. In return for suppressing what you might do, we can supply some very, very, very interesting information that might be of great use to certain people.
That's the intel agencies coming to him during cases saying, we know our client is implicated, but we're going to need you to suppress this information so that we could do whatever, right? This isn't right. I'm not saying it is right. I'm not saying it is right. I'm saying this is what happens. I'm saying this is what happens. That'll do it for today. You're never getting the Epstein list. You got to let it go. We don't even live in the democracy that you think. That's why you're never going to get it. Okay? It is really that simple. I'm your host, Patrick Hobble. Thanks for joining me today. Give us a follow on X, right? We are 40 Chess. You can see it right there. There we are. We're still live. Go give us a follow on X. You know, it helps us out. Give us a comment on Apple or Spotify if you're listening, or Rumble or YouTube. We're everywhere. And we'll break down some more politics tomorrow. Anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday.